doesn't matter if you're the head of the Chamber of Commerce in a dark and dirty and dangerous chocolate city, or if you're a social worker in the same city. You really have to overcome the same kind of challenge. In the case of the CEO, you have to really convince yourself that in the case of the CEO of a Chamber of Commerce in Memphis, your job one is to convince yourself that you're living in a safe city, that where there's opportunity for everybody, and all this crime and violence and mayhem and chaos and anarchy and excuses for it from the mayor's office really don't make a difference. If you're a social worker, same kind of thing, except you have to convince yourself that you can work among the most dangerous and deprived citizens of your town. And you can do that at no risk to yourself or to your family. Turns out both of those are very dangerous delusions.
Breaking news alert. The president and CEO of the Greater Memphis Area Chamber of Commerce killed in a shooting downtown tonight. The case has prompted a massive police response as investigators search for a killer. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Joe Birch.
And I'm Kanji Anthony. We are told that Philip Trenary had just left Laughlin Yard, where the chamber held a run tonight. The shots rang out on South Front Street near G.E. Patterson, and that is where we find WMC Action News 5's Joyce Peterson. She has been there all night. Joyce, what can you tell us?
Joe and Kanji, when we arrived here on the scene, there was only about a block of Front Street that was roped off by Memphis police. Since that time, they have pushed us back, far back. We're on Georgia Avenue. We started out on G.E. Patterson, so that entire stretch right now is roped off. The crime scene much larger. I saw officers down here by us going along the tracks in the grass, looking around presumably for any type of evidence. What we know from law enforcement sources, Phil Trenary was shot around 7:30 tonight in the 500 block of Front Street. He lives not far from there. He has a home on Front. The ambulance was just pulling away when we arrived. The shooting happened along this stretch of apartments and condos near the farmers market. Downtown residents here we talked with, stunned by this kind of violence in what they say is normally a very quiet neighborhood.
I walk all night, never worried about anything happening down here. I mean, there's a police department right behind me, so I never thought I would experience anything like this. So it's just kind of shocking for me.
I feel like we need a bigger police presence, but I also think that I've seen a lot more police in recent time, although that didn't help whatever's happening here.
What we know from Memphis police, the suspect drove off in a white pickup truck. That is all the information we have right now. There is no word about a possible motive. Back live out here on Front, where it turns into Georgia Avenue. You can see cars behind me turning around. More than 3.5 hours after the shooting, no one is allowed to their homes. Memphis police handling this investigation very carefully. Again, the CEO of the Memphis Chamber of Commerce, Phil Trenary, shot and killed tonight here in downtown Memphis. The chamber tasked with bringing new business to Memphis, growing business, inviting companies in, making the city shine. That shine, a little less bright tonight. Reporting live in downtown Memphis, I'm Peterson. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Joyce. Now, look here. You're looking at a live image right outside Regional 1, where the crime scene unit has arrived tonight here outside of the area where Trenary was rushed after the shooting. We know that several city leaders, including City Council Chairman Berlin Boyd, have been at the hospital there. We know that Trenary's family is also inside the hospital at this time, and we will bring you more information as we learn it tonight and also tomorrow morning.
We've confirmed the next of kin has been informed. Phil Trenary, who you're looking at there, was named president and CEO of the Memphis Area Chamber of Commerce in 2014. He was the point man working to grow the Memphis economy and one of the key architects of the Chamber's Chairman's Circle, a force uniting Mid-South CEOs and senior business leadership in creating jobs for Memphis. The smiling, affable chamber leader made his mark in business in the airline industry. He served 13 years as CEO of Pinnacle Airlines, a one-time key feeder at Memphis International Airport. Trenary took Pinnacle from $75 million a year in annual revenue to over $1 billion. In his years between Pinnacle and the Chamber, Trenary worked as a consultant to the airline industry, Shelby Farms Park, Emerge Memphis, and other initiatives across the city.
I'm sure Phil Trenary was the kind of guy, if you meet him on the street when he was still alive, we would have been happy to meet him, shake his hand. He would have taken an interest in us. We'd be talking to him, and we'd walk away going, hey, that's really a nice guy. I like him. Maybe we wouldn't even know about this quote from the Huffington Post if we had that kind of interaction with Phil Trenery when he was still alive. Here's Phil's view of Memphis. Quote, we can never be the kind of community that we want to be until we have the minority firms have a much larger piece of the pie. This is just a couple weeks ago from the Huffington Post. Translation. The only reason Memphis is going off the cliff on every possible indicator you can imagine for crime, violence, chaos, mayhem, all sorts of educational indicators. The only reason that's happening is because of white racism that has been systematically denying black people all these economic opportunities. So we're going to have to change that by giving black people preferential treatment. Now, that is what it is, but on the other end of that, if you're Phil Trenery, I could see why you might take a little bit more liberties with your personal safety, thinking, I'm down with the cause. Isn't the cause going to be down with me? Fatal lesson, Phil. Let's head on over to another case of somebody at the tip of the spear when dealing with black people, except this time over in the Atlanta area.
So Miss Beverly was a joy to be around.
People at City of Refuge can't believe resident services specialist Beverly Jenkins is gone.
She entered every situation with a smile, and she left every situation with a smile.
Beverly was just this outgoing, vivacious, energetic, very engaging mother and grandmother and employee.
The mother of 5 had just gotten off of work at City of Refuge early Sunday morning. She was driving home near Hopkins Street and Westview Drive in southwest Atlanta when a bullet struck her in the head.
Was shot and killed within about a mile and a half of the property here.
Balloons and flowers at the memorial where the 49-year-old was murdered. Her loved ones want to remember the cheerful and outgoing mother and grandmother that loved giving back.
And she always went above and beyond. So getting to know those who found themselves here at City of Refuge in Eden Village, she got to know their history, their story, and wanted to add any bit of encouragement that she could.
Somebody that you admire is suddenly gone with no warning and in such a senseless act. It just sort of stunned us all.
Jenkins' daughter also worked at City of Refuge. She had just had a baby and was on maternity leave. CEO Bruce Steele says the family is grieving.
Yeah, I've met with the family a number of times and had conversations, and they're struggling with the emotion. So obviously a lot of wondering why, how did this happen, and why was she targeted?
In Chicago, what I'm about to tell you cost the city of Chicago $22.5 million. They arrested a white girl at the airport, took her to the jail in South Chicago. That's a euphemism for the black neighborhood of Chicago. They kept her 24 hours. They decided she was too crazy to keep in jail. So they let her loose. They kicked her loose right outside, just let her walk out the jail. No phone, no money, no nothing. She was kind of a little bit on the crazy side. Within a couple hours, she was being tossed off a 7-story building. She survived with permanent physical and mental damages. Her parents sued. They brought in a psychologist from Harvard. He talked about routine activity theory, where he said a white person or non-black person walking in a black neighborhood can routinely expect to be the victim of ridiculous levels of violence. And because of routine activity theory, the cops should have known that. Thus, they were liable for releasing that woman into the ghetto of Chicago. The judge said you would have been safer taking her to the zoo, putting her in a lion cage, rather than let her out where you did. Did Phil Trenery know about that? Did this mother of 5, the social worker who went into the ghetto of Atlanta, know about that? Did either of them have any idea did they ever even glimpse, were they able to glimpse outside of their own delusions? The kind of danger you put yourself in? they were putting themselves in? I don't think so, or else maybe they wouldn't be dead today. But pointing that out is pretty much guaranteed to make the black kids angry.